Okay, alkene. Alkene is another group of hydrocarbon or organic compounds that are classified as acyclic, meaning they are straight or branched. So, hindi sila cyclic. They don't have a ring. Okay? This time, they are unsaturated. When you say unsaturated, it has a double bond. So, with the presence of the double bond, they are classified as saturated. This double bond is the functional group for alkene, and it should be in between two carbon atoms, such that we call this carbon to carbon double bond. This alkene or this group will have a general formula of CnH2n, wherein N represents the number of carbon atom. The nomenclature of these organic compounds ends with ENE to denote that there is the presence of carbon to carbon double bond. Alkene is also known as olefins. Okay, so sabi ko kanina, this double bond should be in between two carbon atoms. Okay, so on the naming, the rules from naming alkene will still be the same. Ang magkakaiba lang dito ay the suffix. From A and E, we're going to replace it with E and E to denote that there is the presence of the functional group carbon to carbon double bond. The simplest alkene is an ethene. Okay? Hindi pwede ang methane kasi by requirement, the double bond should be in between two carbon atoms. And by definition, meth means one, so therefore, the existence of methane is not possible. Okay, so moving on, ethene is the simplest. It is having a molecular formula of C2H4. Paano naging H4? Because if you're going to have two carbon atoms with a double bond, to meet the 4-bond requirement, the first carbon atom still needs 2 hydrogen. Same is true with the second carbon atom. It could be written by having CH2 double bond CH2. Next, alkene is a propene with 3 carbon atoms. Molecular formula is C3H6. So, these 3 carbon atoms is arranged in a straight chain. The double bond is in between carbon number 1 and carbon number 2. To satisfy the 4-bond requirement, the carbon number 1 needs 2 more hydrogen. The second carbon atom, in order to meet the 4-bond requirement, should have 1 hydrogen only. Kasi nga it's bearing double bond with the first carbon atom and single bond with the third carbon atom. So that's already 3. So to satisfy the 4-bond requirement, we only need 1 hydrogen. However, for the third carbon atom, it has 3 hydrogen because it's only bonded to 1 single bond to the second carbon atom. So the condensed formula will be C3. Okay, so this is the C3, CH, double bond, CH2. Okay. The next alkene is butene. So for this case, unlike the first two that I made mention, for butene, as you could see, kailangan na niya ng locant. Okay, this locant represents the position of the carbon atom that bears the double bond. So, butene will have 4 carbon atom and 8 hydrogen. So, it could be 1 butene The 1 represents the position of the carbon atom. Kasi kung titignan mo dito sa kanyang structure, the double bond is in between carbon 1 and 2. So we are not putting the two numbers 1 and 2. Rather, we're just going to write the smallest number, that is 1, to denote that the carbon atom could be found between 1 and the next carbon atom 2. Okay, so hindi na natin lalagay yung 2. 1 lang kasi nga it implies that yung sinong susunod dun sa 1, edi 2. So, nandun yung double bond. Okay, so this one would be 1-butene. Okay, so sabi ko kanina dalawang klase ang butene. We have the other one is 2-butene. It is in between. Pag nakalagay na 2, ibig sabihin that is between 2 and 3. So this is 2 and 3, or second and third carbon atom of the butene, into which you can find the carbon-carbon double bond. Bakit hindi tayo naglalagay ng number dito sa propene at saka doon kanina sa ethene? Hindi na natin kailangang maglagay kasi nga at any rate this is carbon number 1. So kahit nabalik na rin natin yung structure, carbon number 1 pa rin yon. So it doesn't differentiate having that locant. Kasi isa lang din naman ang kanyang isomer for that butene, for that propene. Okay? So, for butene, wala tayong 3-butene. Kasi nga, if this one would be numbered from left to right, so sasabihin yung 3, 4 yan. Pero bakit 1-butene pa rin ang kanyang name? Kasi nga, it could be numbered from left to right or right to left. So, if that is 3 to 4, the other one could be this one, 1 and 2. So, we are choosing the one that will give us the lowest locant. So, still 1-butene. Okay? So, parehas lang itong dalawang yan. Okay? Okay, wala rin 4-butene. Hindi ito pwedeng maging 4-butene. Okay? So, we only have two kinds of butene, 1-butene and 2-butene. Okay, so we have 5 carbon atoms with double bond, so that is pentene. We only have two kinds, 1-pentene and 2-pentene. 3-pentene is not possible, though nandito siya, 3, 4, because if we're going to number it left to right or right to left, this would be carbon number 2 and that would be carbon number 3. So this structure is just the same with that one. Okay, so we have simple alkenes, hexene, heptene, octene, nonene, and decene. Okay, so still they follow the general formula of CN H2N. So if carbon atom is 7, the hydrogen should be 14. Okay, the line angle structure or line angle formula for simple alkenes. So we could recall that the ending and the intersections of this line structure represents carbon atoms. So that is 3 carbon atoms, so that's propene. And this one would be 4 carbon atoms, hence 1-butene. And this is 5 carbon atoms, hence 1-pentene. 1 because the double bond is in between 1 and 2. But we are not putting the second number anymore. Only the first or only the lower number of carbon atom that bears the double bond. So for 1-hexene, so we have 6 carbon atoms here. And the double bond is in between 1 and 2, hence we are naming it 1-hexene. What about if there are substituents? Okay, so we still have to follow the rules similar to alkanes, okay, into which you have you have to choose the parent chain as being the longest chain. You have to alphabetical arrange the substituents, number them in such a way that you have to come up with the smallest set of numbers, and still you are using the dash to separate word from a number and a comma to separate two numbers or number from a number, and we are not still putting spaces in between the last name of the substituent and the name of the parent chain. What is new with the naming system is that instead of using A and E, just like the one we did for alkane, this time we are using E and E to denote that there is the carbon to carbon double bond. And in choosing the parent chain, uh, it should satisfy two requirements. Not only that it is the longest chain, but also it bears the two carbon atom or all the carbon atom that contains the double bond. So it's not, hindi na lang siya longest. Rather, longest na naisama ang lahat ng carbon atom na may double bond. Let's have an example. If you could see, ang parent chain daw nito ay this one, itong colored. Okay. But in reality, if you're going to count it, so it has only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbon atoms. So, pero kung titignan natin, ang longest ay ito. It has 6 carbon atoms. However, this is not accepted because the carbon-to-carbon double bond is not included in the longest chain. Remember, dalawang requirement natin in choosing the parent chain. The longest and at the same time bears the double bond. So, for this particular example, we are not choosing hexene to be our parent chain, not because they have 6 carbon atoms, but rather we are choosing pentene, okay, only 5 carbon atoms that bears the carbon-to-carbon double bond. Okay, maliwanag. And after choosing the parent chain, still having the longest and that bears the double bond, okay, we have to number it this time nearest to the double bond. So, ang priority natin dito would no longer be the alphabetical listing or priority of the alkyls. Rather, it would be the priority for numbering would be the double bond, such that you should be numbering them or giving them a number with the lowest one. Okay, so for this case, you have pentene. The double bond is in between 2 and 3. So this one would be named as 2-pentene. Okay, so that would be 2-pentene and not the other way around. You're not going to start with the with right to left because otherwise the double bond is in between 3 and 4. So hindi siya pwedeng ganon. So come up with a numbering system into which you have the lowest number for the double bond. Okay, so if you're going to where are we? Here, sorry. If we are going to number this structure, the double bond is between 2 and 3. Okay, and 2 and 3. They are just the same. However, we are choosing right to left numbering over left to right. Okay, hindi tayo, mas preferred natin ang right to left because of the count of the substituent chlorine. Okay, so for substituent, we are not only limited to alkyls, rather substituent halogens could also be found in alkene. Ano ba yung mga halogens? You have fluorine, which could be named as fluoro. Please take note of the spelling, Fluoro. And then you have chlorine to be named as chloro. Then you have bromine to be named as bromo. And what else? Iodine to be named as iodo. Okay, so we are not only limited with the substituent alkyls, rather we could also have substituent in the form of halogen. Okay, nevertheless, going back to this specific example, since meron tayong numbering system that is equidistant, left to right or right to left, okay, ang ating tiebreaker dito ay yung halogen. So, kung ang halogen dito ay at carbon number 1 at dito naman ay carbon number 4, so hindi natin ito pipiliin, rather, pipiliin natin yung numbering system na magbibigay sa atin ng lowest number for the double bond as well as the lowest number for the substituent chloro or other substituent. Okay? Then rule number 4, if you have, okay, so if you are now established with the name of the parent chain as well as the numbering system, okay, what is new about alkene is that you are putting the position of the double bond in the name of the hydrocarbon. So you are putting a number between the name of the parent chain except for ethene and propene. So for this case, this would be named as 2-butene to denote that the double bond is in between 2 and the succeeding 3. But the 3 will not be reflected in the name. So this one will be named as 3-methyl-1-butene kasi nga the parent chain has 4 carbon atoms, so that's but. There's a double bond, so we are using E and E. That double bond is in between carbon 1 and 2, so we are going to get 1. So that is 1-butene. And on the third carbon of that butene, there is an attachment of methyl, so we have 3-methyl-1-butene. Still, dashes or hyphen separates word from a number. Yeah, word from a number. Now, what about if there are 2 or more double bonds? Okay, we are affixing prefixes di or diene to denote that there are 2 double bonds, triene to denote that there are 3, and tetrene to denote that there are the existence of 4 double bonds. Take note that for naming this one, we are not going to drop the E. Okay, so instead of butene a while ago, like this one on top, butene, okay, if there are 2 or more, it would be butadiene para mas maganda yung pagbasa. Kasi pag butadiene, medyo parang hindi magandang pakinggan, so they are going to add the A. So that would be butadiene or butatriene or pentadiene. Okay? So, lalagyan ng A, hindi but. Okay? So, this one, and of course, if you are using if you're going to use diene, locant should also be of 2 numbers, either the same number or, different numbers rather. So, we have 2 different numbers here. So, if there is a triene, dapat meron ka rin, gagamit ka rin ng 3 numbers to denote the position of those 3 double bonds. Okay, so let's have this example. So, these 4 carbon atoms has 2 double bonds. So, if numbering would be left to right, the first encountered double bond is between 1 and 2. So, the one that will be reflected on the name is just the lowest, so that's 1. And the next double bond is between the third and the fourth carbon atom of that parent chain, so we are only reflecting the smaller number 3. So yan yung 3. We are retaining the A in the buta to make the name sound nicer. So that is 1, 3, butadiene. Uulitin ko, if there is a di in the name of the hydrocarbon, we are having two numbers to locate that two double bond. Okay? So another example is, so ito namang structure na to. First, you have to locate the longest chain of carbon atoms that contain the double bond. So itong 5 na to. Okay, yung hindi na isama dun sa 5 carbon atom is known to be the substituent, and that is methyl. Number 8, from left to right or right to left, for as long as you're going to come up with the smallest set of numbers. The first encountered double bond is in between 1 and 2. So that would be reflected as 1 only. And the second one would be on the 4th and the 5th. And we're only writing the 4. Okay. Pent for 5 carbon atoms in the longest chain. Diene because there are 2 double bonds. And then on the 3rd carbon atom of that parent chain, there is an attachment of an alkyl methyl. So therefore, overall, the name of the hydrocarbon is 3-methyl 1,4-pentadiene. Ulitin natin, hyphen, used to separate word from a number, comma, used to separate number from a number. And there should be no spaces in between these words in the IUPAC name. Okay?